The King Who Wanted More. Written and narrated by Karen Hodgson. Illustrated by Madalina Dina. Published by Hogs Books. There was once a king who had everything he could wish for. He lived in a beautiful land, in a beautiful palace, surrounded by beautiful treasures. Yet the king was not happy. Why? Because he always wanted more. Every day the king would walk around his magnificent palace, but everything he saw filled him with sadness. King Midas's gold is shinier than this, he grumbled to himself while eating breakfast from his golden plate. King Arthur has a mightier sword than mine, he told his opponent while fencing. King Solomon's palace is bigger and grander, he complained to the royal architect. And he'd heard there was an emperor who wore clothes so fine they could scarcely be seen. There was only one thing in the whole palace that the king was sure could never be surpassed, his beautiful daughter Catherine. But much as the king loved his daughter, even this was tinged with sadness. The day would come when she would find a husband, and he must hand over his most prized possession to another. One morning, after walking around the palace gardens, and scolding the gardener for failing to find a tree that bore silver nutmegs and golden pears, the king came up with a plan. He would give Catherine's hand in marriage to any man who could bring him a gift that matched her beauty. The princess begged her father to change his mind. She had fallen in love with a young shepherd who owned nothing. "You already have so many things," she wept, "and the palace is surrounded by beauty. Look at the gardens, the forest and the hills." But the king wouldn't listen. He wanted more. In the weeks that followed, princes and noblemen came from afar, bearing gifts of great rarity and worth. Their travels were in vain. Nothing the king saw approached the princess's beauty. One suitor brought a rose of the purest red. "This rose is perfect," said the king. "It's the reddest rose I've ever seen. But it doesn't match my daughter's beauty. Her lips are redder by far than this." Another brought a tapestry, skillfully woven from the most sumptuous silks. "Exquisite," said the king. "It's the finest tapestry I've ever seen. But it doesn't match my daughter's beauty. The colours in her hair are richer still." A third brought a mandolin, carved from the darkest ebony. On hearing it, the king threw up his arms and cried, "This is an incredible instrument. It plays the sweetest music I've ever heard. But it doesn't compare to my daughter's voice. Her singing is sweeter still." And so it went on. Week after week brought a new suitor, each with a gift more beautiful than the last, but not quite beautiful enough. Then one night, a different kind of suitor presented himself at the palace gates. The king was roused from his slumbers to learn that a young shepherd waited outside, who claimed to have a gift as beautiful as the princess. Curious to learn what such a poor man could offer, the king granted him an audience at once. "In order to receive my gift, you must come with me tonight into the hills beyond the city," said the shepherd. "The journey will be long, and there is frost underfoot, but you will not regret our venture." Unable to resist this promise, the king followed the mysterious young man deep into the night. The two walked in silence, the king spurred on by curiosity and greed, and the shepherd by his love for the princess. Finally, they arrived at the edge of a mountain lake. There, high above them, shimmering and sparkling in silent splendour, sat a giant silvery moon. "Is this not a thing of beauty?" said the shepherd. "Yes," gasped the king. "It's truly magnificent, and does indeed equal the princess in radiance. Even so, I cannot let you marry her. The moon can never be mine alone. It belongs to everyone." "Ah," replied the shepherd, "a thing of beauty is no less precious for being shared. However, since you insist on keeping the moon just for yourself, I'll let you take it back to the palace." Smiling to himself, the shepherd added, "At every step of your homeward journey, look up at the sky. You'll see that my gift will follow you. If, when you return to the palace, the moon is still with you, then you must promise me the hand of fair Catherine." The king agreed at once, and true to the shepherd's word, the moon followed him step by step. When at last the king reached the palace gates, and saw the shepherd's gift cast its silvery spell on all he owned, he wept for joy and woke the royal household. "Look what has been given to me," commanded the king. "Is this not the rarest and most magnificent prize?" The courtiers were speechless. The princess broke the silence. "But, father, the moon has always been there." At that moment the king realized his foolishness. "Yes, but my eyes have been so fixed on worldly treasures that I've failed to see the most beautiful gifts of all, and the price I must pay is your happiness, Catherine." The princess embraced her father and assured him that the shepherd's wisdom had already won her heart. The king agreed that the shepherd was a wise man and a suitable match for the princess. Their marriage would take place the following month, he proclaimed, and the whole kingdom was invited to join in the celebrations. The wedding day arrived, and the palace was filled with music and feasting, and wine and dancing. At the end of it all there was a special gift for everyone, a giant moon to follow each and every guest home. And from that day to this, if you look up on a clear night, the king's moon will follow you home too.